guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
It's a scoop session with our guy Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. It's actually 6 degrees warmer at minus 11 than when it was when I looked at this early in the morning here, boys. So we're creeping our way back up. But yeah, it's brutal out there. Doogie's got the kids home today. All these soft schools canceling school. Put a stocking cap on and get out to the bus. You cowards.
Seriously, if I turn up the mic, you may be able to hear Doogie upstairs uttering an F-bomb every other word about how stupid this is. Either in or out. If out, no school. This isn't COVID. Time to move on. But you know what? Maybe open up the schools for kids that could go, that need that in-person attention. Like this e-learning thing, don't get me going on it. Either
so
one
we're
or the other.
We're
no
doing like e-classes?
Or have the kids go to school that can get to school. I get it, bus stops. I don't want kids freezing. I understand that. So for some kids, it has to be e-learning. But for those who can make it, like let them in. I'm not real happy this morning.
Back in the day, back in the 1800s, the early 1900s, hey, you got that outhouse? That's your bathroom out there, son. You got to go make it quick. 17 below zero.
Wouldn't the majority of parents prefer to drive their children to school and forego the bus and drop them off and be done than to have to possibly make plans for their kids to be watched all day?
Yes, but not possible for many parents. I understand that. So e-learning for some students, fine. But to me, if a kid can get to school, has a ride, why not open the doors? A lot of the teachers are there because they're participating in the e-learning. Now, maybe some are doing it from home, but enough are there. In the case of Doogie, my older son, he needs that in-person attention. He needs that dialogue. He's got a lot of questions. That's fine. Like he's like his dad, right? He asks a lot of questions. He needs a lot of things answered.
Is he
needs
texting
clarity
agents
on many fronts? Like today accomplishes nothing for him.
Must be fun there.
I'm just telling you, case by case. But in the case of the Wolfson family, now my younger son doesn't even have an iPad. They didn't send him home with one, rightfully so, the other day. So he has a free day. So that doesn't help matters either. That older son sees younger son playing NBA 2K right now, and he's trying to navigate Lang and Lit. So yeah, it's going to be one heck of a morning here at the Wolfson household.
Another guy who is staying home, maybe, is Brian Flores. So he had 3 head coaching interviews. Chicago Bears, well, Ben Johnson just got hired. And then Jets and Jaguars. Well, according to Adam Schefter, the Jaguars are bringing in Patrick Graham, who was the former Raiders defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, and Liam Cohen, the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, for in-person second interview. So those are presumably the 3 finalists for Jacksonville. And then the Jets, according to The Athletic, only have 1 second interview scheduled with a head coaching candidate, and it's Aaron Glenn. And I think that happens today. So if that's the case, and these teams have already moved into their second interview finalists, Brian Flores likely coming back as defensive coordinator?
It certainly seems that way. He's not in the mix in New Orleans, not in the mix as of now in Las Vegas. I've never seen him getting a job. I just haven't. We've discussed this for a long time with the pending litigation. Him getting interviews, not surprising. His body of work suggests he deserves another chance. But as long as this litigation is pending, which I'm confused why it's still pending, like this has been forever. Let's just reach some sort of conclusion on this litigation. But as long as he is still suing the league, I just didn't foresee a Woody Johnson or you name the owner hiring Brian Flores. So yeah, Aaron Glenn, likely the next head coach of the Jets. It doesn't look like he's getting the Jacksonville job. I'll tell you what, great job by Ryan Poles. Wonderful job hiring Ben Johnson. Home run hire.
Disagree.
We can debate. I know our guy Thor doesn't think Caleb Williams is a great fit with Ben Johnson. We can nitpick all that. That's fine. I'm just telling you, you talk to people in the league, home run hire. The Bears nailed this. Some surprise still that Ben ultimately chose Chicago, not Las Vegas or perhaps somewhere else. But I'm just telling you, you chat with enough people in the league, they will tell you, Phil, that is the hire of this offseason. That's fine if Pete Carroll ultimately ends up in Vegas, Glenn with the Jets, maybe Saleh, whomever else in Jacksonville. If Mike McCarthy gets the New Orleans job, fine, so be it. Whoever ends up in Dallas, Flores, his name has not come up in Dallas either. But that the home run hire this coaching cycle was made by the Chicago Bears. By the way, Patrick Graham, he was heavily in the mix before the Vikings hired Kevin O'Connell. So not a real popular name, but he was in the mix here a few years ago.
So what, as far as these jobs too that are left go, it's interesting because like, if I'm Flores and, I'd certainly like a job, but like, I think the Jets job is death. Like until it's proven it's not. The more I think about it, I actually think that the Raiders job is not great. Cause as long as Brady is trying to split his two lives and do TV here, and then I'm going to run the team here, I don't like that. There's no commitment. And we don't know that Tom is going to be really good at either one yet. Jacksonville, always, sort of dysfunctional. Dallas is a gong show. So to be honest, I don't know that there's a job left unless you think the Saints job is a great job. That is just a home run type of job. I think that there's a lot of real dysfunction. So in some ways, if this lawsuit can get settled and he could actually get into the cycle next year, I think that might be more advantageous because, I'm sorry. I think the Jets is just going to continue to be a complete cluster bleep until that team is sold at some point, which is not going to be soon, Dukes.
Fair, although typically when you're taking over, it's sort of a dumpster fire, right? Like how many great, I get it, advantageous, sure. There probably will be better opportunities this time next year compared to now, but oftentimes when you're taking over a team, there are a lot of issues. I will say on Vegas, bunch of cap space. Now, I get it. Like that division isn't slowing down the next few years. If they hire Pete Carroll, 73-year-old Pete Carroll, although acts like he's 53, but 73-year-old Pete Carroll, how much sense does Sam Darnold landing in Las Vegas make? They have 2 third-round picks, got an extra one in the Davante Adams trade. Is there a potential trade to be worked out? Now, maybe it's Russell Wilson. Maybe it's a reunion, Carroll with Wilson. But I would think if it's Pete Carroll in Vegas, a veteran quarterback makes all sorts of sense. So I'm just wondering aloud, maybe this is more like a Thursday theme, not a Tuesday theme, Reckless Speculation Thursday. But what about Sam Darnold in a trade to the Raiders?
Yeah, Jeremy Fowler came out with, talking to executives and front office people and scouts, and his conclusion was Darnold to Raiders sometime here. Now, to your point, Dukes, the mechanics of what that looks like, way up in the air, because the Vikings have to decide, is it better to let him become an unrestricted free agent, sign for $100 million over 3 years, and now in 2026, we get a better compensatory pick in that formula? Or, to your point about the Raiders, they have a ton of draft capital on days 2 and 3. They got like 3 or 4 sixth-round picks. Could you go to the Raiders and say, listen, let's close the market off. It's you and me right here. We're going to negotiate. We're going to franchise Sam, but they got to figure out what that price is. You're not getting a first-round pick anymore for Sam Darnold, but would they give you a 4th and a 6th? Is that more valuable than the comp pick you would get in 2000? Because you'd get those picks now for 2025. So that's what they're trying to weigh, I'm guessing, is it more valuable just to let him walk and get a comp pick off the contract he signs? But then you have to delay the gratification.
Sure. And how aggressive will you be this March? Like the Vikings are not getting a compensatory pick for Danielle Hunter. Like you lose Danielle Hunter, you're thinking compensatory pick. You're not getting one for Danielle. Essentially, Jonathan Grenard cancels out Danielle. You will get one for Kirk Cousins. Okay, so that's going to be like a late third. So right now the Vikings have pick, 24? They'll get pick like 96, 98, 97, 99, end of the third. Then they have the 2 fifths. So right now you have what looks like 4 draft picks come late April. Adding another pick, Phil, I think makes all sorts of sense. I'm telling you, especially when you're not guaranteed a 2026 compensatory pick. The bigger question is, does Vegas truly want Sam? Is there really a trade to be worked out? But the Vikings moving Sam, if there is a willing trade partner, getting a 2025 draft pick, that to me makes a lot of sense.
The question to me is this: what's the price point on Sam? Because if you franchise him at 40 mil, his reps at CAA are going to want a contract that starts there, right? So like the question is, can you franchise him and trade him at that price, and then he can go work out, let's just say it is the Raiders, he can go work out like a 3-year contract at 42 mil per, or with those last 2 games, has the price point dropped to 35. At which point in time, you're not going to franchise him because then the team's going to balk and say, we're not going to sign him at that. Like that to me, the most destructive thing about his performance in those last 2 games is not that he's going to go broke, not that he's not going to get a job, but the franchise tag is going to come at a price that I don't know now after watching those last 2 games, teams are going to want to pay. And if that's the case, then I think you don't franchise him and do what Phil is saying, which is you take the compensatory pick. Obviously, the preference would be to get like a 3rd round pick for 2025 if you can.
So this goes back to behind the scenes tampering, whatever you want to call it, whether it begins at the Senior Bowl soon, picks up at the Combine, pre the franchise tag deadline of March 5th, where you would know absolutely if there is a trade to be worked out, what that price point is. You're right, Judd. I mean, those last 2 games, it just stinks. Like, even if the Vikings had lost both, but Sam was competent in at least one. So maybe he has 1 dud, but then bounces back, let's say, against the Rams.
Yeah.
But that's the unfortunate thing. How do you weigh the 15 games minus Jacksonville? Pretty darn good body of work with the Jacksonville game, with the game in Detroit, with the game against the Rams. I still say, okay, Shedeur Sanders, okay, he can start right away. Cam Ward, he can start right away. There's not another draft-eligible quarterback that is capable of starting right away. I believe it's 7, perhaps even 8 or 9 teams that need a quarterback. 9th would be Carolina. They probably roll back with Bryce Young.
Yeah,
Think about that. You think so for sure, Bryce Young?
100%.
Okay. All right, so let's
sourced
take that.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm reporting that they're in on Bryce Young. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And I know Adam likes him. Sure. Okay, fine. That's good. Okay. So it's 8 teams. The Colts? Can we say the Colts?
Yeah.
Or are they still all in on Anthony Richardson?
Very 50-50, but that's a sneaky one. All
right, so I think it's 8. Then you can look at the other ones. Giants, Jets, Raiders, Steelers, Browns, go up and down the list, right? It's 7 others plus the Colts. Who's filling all those spots?
Right.
Okay, so Shedeur 1, Cam 1. Who else? Okay, so Sam fills 1.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson fills 1. Does Justin Fields fill 1? Here's another question. Like, the Vikings want Daniel Jones back? Is there anyone that would give him the opportunity to play right away? Sign him to a 1-year deal comparable to the Sam Darnold deal and throw him the keys right away? Or is he better off going through a full year of quarterback rehab school, work with Kevin O'Connell?
Yeah, he is.
Be the backup to McCarthy. Maybe even plays right away, depending on if McCarthy is ready or not. But all signs do point to JJ being okay health-wise. In fact, I was texting with somebody close to JJ on Thursday afternoon after the Kwesi Kevin season-ending news conference. They are convinced he'll be ready to go in September. But if there's some sort of setback, maybe Daniel Jones plays a little bit in September. But that's something to weigh. But I do know the Vikings absolutely want Daniel Jones back.
I mean, he would be a quarterback rehabilitation school dropout if he didn't complete the full coursework in 2025. You know, that's a stain on your resume.
You could get more than Sam, though, you guys. Like if
someone
comes along and says, "Okay, we'll pay you 15," do you say no?
Yeah, he could get 15. I don't think it's much beyond that.
No,
but yes, he could go north of 10.
Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, what
could go north of 10.
What do you, Dukes and Judd too? So Grant Udinsky is the Vikings assistant. He's like in his 20s, young dude, kind of
Highly
a fast
thought of.
rising,
in
right?
the mix in Seattle for the OC job. I
Yeah,
thought Keenan McCardle might get a sniff there, but he hasn't.
So he is the assistant quarterbacks coach for the Vikings. I mean, we give a lot of credit, obviously, to Josh McCown, but I mean, you see Grant Udinski there on the sidelines every game too. He did conduct a second interview 4 days ago with the Seahawks, so he's a finalist. What do we make of that? I mean, that's an interesting poach that we haven't even been thinking about. But pretty much everyone connected to Sam Darnold is getting, except for maybe Wes Phillips, is getting some interview love here across the league.
Yeah, I mean, there's Josh McCown, there's Keenan McCardle, there's Grant Udinski. I mean, all guys, including Wes Phillips, capable of calling plays. No sense, by the way, that Kevin O'Connell would give up play calling. I know that's been volunteered. Just the thought, not that he would, but just throwing it out there as a talking point. I've not heard such a thing. I fully expect Kevin O'Connell to call plays in 2025. But yeah, I mean, you get that second interview, you're definitely in the mix. Hank Fraley, who used to be a Vikings assistant, he's also in the mix. So Seattle seems to be whittling it down to like 2, 3, 4-ish names. So Grant is in that mix. To me, it's probably when, not if. Like, Grant is going to get a chance to call plays. I just can't necessarily handicap right this second if he is the betting favorite there in Seattle. I guess I would not be shocked, just playing the percentages, that Grant is back, McCown is back, Flores is back, that the Vikings can run this thing back in 2025.
Now, McCown did sit down with the Jets, correct, to talk to them about their job.
Yeah.
He's
virtually, but yes.
Yeah. Here's the one I'm curious about with him is, are we sure, and this is complete Thursday reckless speculation, but are we sure, as close as I think that they are as friends, that Wes Phillips is completely safe? Because, McCown's involvement is really, really high. He definitely got more credit than West did for his work as well with Darnold. So I'm just curious. Like, this is the time of year where Senior Bowl arrives, gets done, and all of a sudden you get a little bit of a news dump, Friday night surprise. That's the one I'm just pondering, because keeping him is of the utmost importance in McCown, and there's really only one more job for him, and that would be to make him the non-play calling still, because of what you said about KO, offensive coordinator of the Vikings.
Well, I mean, who will be the offensive coordinator for Aaron Glenn with the Jets? Who's calling plays?
That's what I'm saying.
With the Jets. I will tell you, McCown really, really likes it here.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he necessarily needs the OC title. If they somehow, in your scenario, make a move on Phillips, because how much does the OC title truly mean here? Like, I don't know if that matters. Seems to be pretty good synergy, him and Grant, with Phillips, with KOC, working with those quarterbacks. I don't know if that matters. Now, if he has a chance to go call plays somewhere, okay, let's have a different discussion. So that's why I just start to wonder, like,
Sure.
Who's the OC with the Raiders if Pete Carroll gets that job? Who's the OC in Jacksonville if Robert Saleh gets that job? You start wondering about some of those things.
Let's explore some space here, boys. Let's explore some space. Because until the contract is done, and I will continue to say, I think he's back. I don't think there's I think that he is going to be the head coach of the Vikings for many years to come. But until he gets a new contract, and yes, he is signed for 2025, the Kevin O'Connell thing continues to make me ponder, continues to make me think, continues to give me pause. And here's part of it, Dukes. What if this isn't as much about the financials as we think? Because we always get rightfully hung up on what's the contract. Is he going to get Andy Reid money? Is he going to get just below that? But let's say this is about more control. What do you think that control is beyond the ordinary, the 53? Like, do you think that that this is hung up by things that go well beyond the potential financial compensation at this point?
It's an interesting question.
Save space, dude.
I know it is. I at least wonder.
It's not being talked about.
I don't have deep insight. I've not heard of any sort of bad blood, Kwesi, with Kevin. Like, legit disagreement? Yes. I mean, we've cited whether it was Ed Ingram, rolling with him in September. Is that what KOC truly wanted? Some other instances. But I don't know. I've not heard of KOC seeking control, final say of the 53-man roster. Plus, all that goes into that, all the draft prep. Like, I have not heard that. I just haven't. I think it's a decent setup they have over there. Looks like Grigson will be back. He was one of like a million people that interviewed for the Jets GM job, but certainly no signs that he's getting that job. Was not in the mix in Tennessee. I've not heard his name attached to Vegas. So it looks like Grigson back. It looks like just about everybody back, with the caveat, like, let me do some digging as we see who for sure gets the Jacksonville job, who for sure gets the Vegas job. And yeah, okay, signs point to Glenn getting the Jets job, but does he? Then starting to wonder, who are the play callers in those three spots?
Yeah, no, I appreciate Judd's reckless speculation here. You know,
I feel like I'm
Well, I
missing
think it's
something.
worth pondering at least.
I feel like
I don't think it's
something.
nuts.
until a deal is done, there's
I think a deal
space
gets
to
done
explore.
too. Yes.
Yeah,
Nothing has changed on my front on that. I foresee a deal getting done, in fact, sooner rather than later.
We will get to the rest of Doogie's scoop bag here, but it's been a rough morning here for old Macadac. You know, it's like minus 18 degrees, waking up. It's cold. Apparently, we're having HVAC issues, and I might literally have to throw in a couple Pep's Legit pizzas just to stay warm later today. Or just fire up 2 or 3. Just gather around the piping hot throwback style, crunchy stone-baked cracker thin crust, zesty tomato sauce, whole milk mozzarella, exceptional ingredients, signature spice topping, that melty cheese, cut it into squares for the full effect. Throwback pizza parlor vibes is how I would describe Pep's Legit Pizza, which you can find in grocery stores around the Twin Cities. Twins Fest is coming up here, Dex. Is that this weekend already?
It is this weekend, yeah. Wow. We're giving away a pack of, on the SKOR North app, for a chance to win a pair of Twins Fest tickets this Saturday. All you got to do, download the SKOR North app, hit the entry for those as well. Again, it's an app exclusive, so you have to have the SKOR North app, but go on the app, go to Listener Rewards, enter for a chance to win a pair of Twins Fest tickets this Saturday at Target Field. Go get that Cole DeGrees autograph and then tweet it at me so I can confirm that you actually did that.
Cole DeGrees.
I'll tell you what, though, it's a good list of guys coming to town. Like, guys don't have interest in doing the winter caravan, so that's been shortened big time compared to like a decade ago. But guys coming in for the weekend, as far as I know, it's a pretty darn good list. Like, I was told Correa in, Buxton in, most of the guys in, not every guy, but most guys in, the Hall of Famers in. So if you're going on Saturday, it's a good group of guys you'll run into.
Michael Restovich, I think, is in, so you can go get those obscure Twins autographs. A guy who's out of the Wolves lineup indefinitely. The Wolves put an update out. Donte DiVicenzo, we saw him limping around a couple games ago, and it's a 3rd-degree great toe sprain, which is another way of saying he likely tore some things in his large toe. Turf toe is another way that people describe this, and it's going to be a while. The internet doctors are saying months, not days or weeks here, Doogie. So a lot of tentacles off this, but your thoughts on the DDV injury here?
Freaking stinks, Phil.
Yeah, it's bad.
They've been playing so well. Yes, we're talking a long time. He is seeking out a second opinion. That's pretty much to figure out, does he need surgery or not?
Ronnie Lott would have cut it off, by the way. Just cut it off.
Ronnie Lott, right? Yeah. Amputate the toe, play without the big toe. Come on, Donte. The Wolves need you. That 5 seed is right there for the taking.
He fell
you
over
don't need
again.
To be in the play-in. Come on, Donte.
DiVincenzo comes up the floor. He falls
He's in the
down.
corner for 3. Oh, God.
He went Humpty
It's
Dumpty.
Unfortunate. And I've discussed this. Like Greg Farnham, the rest of the training staff over there, now some of it is luck. Undoubtedly, it's luck. But they do a really, really good job. Comparatively speaking, before this Donte DiVincenzo injury, the Wolves had been about the healthiest team in the league. Like, you even think about Saturday. Yeah, I know Cleveland kicked the Wolves' ass, right? But Evan Mobley didn't play. Cat. Like, I know the Wolves kicked New York's ass on Friday, but if Cat plays, is the score different? We can go up and down the list all year. The Wolves have played teams that have been missing 1 to 2 to 3 key guys, right? But now it's the Wolves, unfortunately, getting screwed with an injury. I suppose this means more minutes for Rob Dillingham. We started to see that Monday in Memphis. Unfortunate that Rob didn't play in crunch time. Thought that was a mistake. Heck, the Wolves actually do want to give Terrence Shannon Jr. a look. He'll be back soon from the ankle injury, so I think he has a chance to enter the rotation. It could be different guys. Josh Minot's minutes may go up as well, but they're stuck in middle purgatory, 22 and 21, ninth place this morning, 2.5 games from 5th, but 2 games from 12th. But now there's further separation from where they are in 9th to 4th, if thinking about home court advantage in the first round. 28 clutch time games. That leads the NBA. Outside of the lowly Jazz and the lowly Wizards, the Wolves have the worst clutch time offense in the league.
It's so bad.
The amount of dumb shots they take, the amount of turnovers. Chris Finch is supposed to be an offensive savant. We just really haven't seen that. But I will say, Phil, like I've been asked a lot, especially in the emotional time of like 4:30 yesterday, right after the loss in Memphis, is Chris Finch about to be fired? I'll continue to say, more than anything, whether it's Glenn Taylor, Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez, there is zero sense that any of those individuals have the appetite to eat the millions of dollars it would take to fire Chris Finch. He signed a lucrative contract extension less than a year ago. And to me, the roster is flawed. Elevating Mike Inori, and I am a big Mike Inori fan. Mike Inori should be a head coach in the foreseeable future in the league. But elevating Mike Inori, does that really solve all that much? Now, hey, maybe Rob does play in crunch time in Memphis. I'm not sure the game changes, but Rob played well, okay? So some of the crunch time lineups, sure, would be tweaked. But I just don't know how firing Chris Finch solves really much. And I'm just telling you my own personal opinion. I would not fire Chris Finch.
If there was a pie chart of blame for this seeming debacle of you win 3, you lose 4, win 4, lose 3, where does Finch rank you guys on that pie chart? So like how much blame should he get for this?
Well, but let me jump in because it's a complicated chart, right? Because if it's just for this season's step back, well, then Tim Connolly deserves the biggest slice because he shook up a roster that was much more gelled. But much to the chagrin of every day it's like I get 100 emails and tweets. I feel like, are you ready to admit that you were wrong? It's like long term, they had to trade Karl Anthony Towns and that contract.
We've discussed that. I just thought it would be
they had to
next summer, not this previous summer. But we discussed that to keep these guys. They had to make a move. I just didn't think it would happen, especially in late September, coming off being a Final Four team when you had home court advantage. So I thought the opportunity presented itself to run this thing back one more year. But yes, inevitably, Cat was going to get traded. It was going to happen. And hey, getting DiVincenzo, getting that Detroit pick, which we don't know when it'll convey, but I don't know if you were getting better assets than that.
This Pollyanna thought, too, that if they had run it back, they would have gone further and won the championship. Okay, how are you going to deal?
That. Yeah.
So how are you? You don't get Donte DiVincenzo. How are you going to deal with Mike Conley's regression? How are you going to deal with Rudy Gobert's rebounding and defense regression?
But that's my question: is how much blame does Finch directly get now for the fact that he puts Conley back in, like yesterday? He puts Conley back, like Finch. I don't think that he should be fired, but I also don't think that he can skate on this situation as well. Like he has not had, in my opinion, a good year coaching. So like fair. If we were to be fair, and I think this entire show agrees that firing Chris Finch right now is a mistake or would be a mistake, how much blame does he still get though? Because there does seem to be an overriding loyalty to things and people that is not working. That's my question.
Well, I'll also add, yes, Tim Connolly, the architect behind the Cat trade. This wasn't a Glenn Taylor edict or anything crazy like that, right? This was a basketball trade that has financial ramifications for the foreseeable future. But guess what? I'm not entirely sure this trade happens without Chris Finch's blessing that, hey, I can make this work with Julius Randle. Julius is my guy. We have a history from New Orleans. So, like, to think that Chris Finch was anti this trade, put it this way, to think Chris Finch was anti this trade, to me, would be pretty crazy. And, hey, I thought it had a chance to work. 43 games in, not so sure. So I get it. Like, if you go to the ESPN trade machine or the SpotTrack trade machine, start concocting Julius Randle trade scenarios. It makes sense. Now, I've been asked a bunch. What about Detroit? The Pistons had some interest in Julius Randle in the summer. I checked again literally this morning. His name has not come up in Detroit. And I just don't know if JB Bickerstaff has, speaking of having an appetite, has an appetite right now. The Pistons have the same record as the Wolves. Pistons are overachieving in so many ways. Do you bring in Julius Randle? That could really disrupt things there in Detroit. So I've not heard. I'm not saying 100% no way, no how, but in this moment, I've not heard of Detroit Pistons' interest in Julius Randle.
Yeah. Dukes, we do have to run here. If you have one or two scoops for the road there, we would take them on our way out here.
Sure. Tom Hauser in my newsroom tweeted the news. Unfortunate. 92 or 93. I need to verify the age, but Willard Eichelha, the longtime Edina hockey head coach, just, Judd, you could speak to this. I mean, when thinking about, Minnesota hockey luminaries, icons, Willard Eichelha, certainly atop any list. He passed away last night. So thoughts and prayers to the Eichelha family. Thad Levine, former Twins general manager. Let's just say some of these groups that have an interest in buying the Twins, like Thad would be an unbelievable resource. So it's not crazy to think that Thad, let's just say he's had some conversations. Put it that way. Like,
with what, the groups or with the Twins?
Yeah. No, not with the Twins. But like,
Okay.
if you're Justin Ishbia, why wouldn't you reach out to Thad Levine?
The future
you're somebody
president of
else that has
baseball
interest.
operations, you mean?
Well, that'll be interesting.
Well, I don't know about
Hey,
that.
Derek
Because-
Powell, clean out that office.
I'm just saying, I mean, heck, when Derek got elevated, like a lot of us thought, actually, that job makes more sense for Thad.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
are we sure Derek can handle all of it? Yeah, probably can, but like Thad, that job fit Thad to a T
It did.
in my mind. So I'm just saying, like, if you're Ishbia, if you're Marty Davis or anybody else, like, why wouldn't you pick the brain of Thad Levine as you're trying to gain knowledge of the organization? Reaching out to Thad, to me, makes all sorts of logical sense. So because it makes all sorts of logical sense, figure that has happened. There's also some free agent righty bats. They're awaiting a Twins offer. Like, there's a couple guys. I won't say names quite yet because nothing really isn't picked up, but like the Twins have an opportunity for a right-handed bat. Outfield, maybe can play some first base. Some guys that see pretty good playing time here. So would rather sign a one-year deal here than elsewhere. So we continue to wait and see as the Twins try to create a little bit of payroll flexibility. It'll be $134 million-ish payroll. Right now, Declan, you might have the exact number. They're a tick above that. So still need to shed a little bit of money to sign a free agent righty bat. But I've been asked that. Like, do you think before opening day the Twins are going to sign a free agent to a major league deal? My answer remains yes.
Yeah. He is Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. All right, Dukes.
All right,
We'll
boys.
speculate recklessly on Thursday with you. See
sounds
you
good.
then.
We'll chat on Thursday. Thanks. See ya.
All right, guys. Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd.